Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today bright and early on a Sunday morning. Listen, when there aren't fights announced, right, it's hard to come up with ideas. So, whatever the fuck that is on the top of my brain that I've been looking at the past couple of days, that's what you're going to get out of me when there aren't fights. Now, we are technically in UFC 323 fight week, but I got to bridge the gap until then. So, today we are going to be talking about how would prime Ronda Rousey do versus the current bantamweight women. And let me tell you right now, I'm going to tell you this. This is just going to turn into a rant. We're not even going to finish this list. So let's talk about Ronda Rousey a little bit. I think so many people remember Ronda, nowadays for the 48-second loss to Amanda Nunes, the KO heard around the world by Holly Holm. First of all, go back and watch those fights. Unbelievable stuff. When Holly Holm shocked the world and KO'd Ronda Rousey, that was like, what the fuck? Because she was coming off that KO win over Bethe Correia, where I think a lot of people were like, holy shit, like Ronda's literally unbeatable. She's now slumping girls with her hands. Um, and I think the memory in MMA fans' minds is that. But if you even go down one more space, you take away these two pictures and you do the crop differently and you look down. Look at this shit, bro. All finishes in the first round outside of Miesha Tate. Dude, if we had one bantamweight women's fighter who did this today, I would erase the entire history of bantamweight women's MMA. I would get rid of Juliana Pena, throw her off a cliff. Get rid of Raquel Pennington. Get rid of Myra Bueno Silva. I could get rid of Kayla Harrison. I don't even care. If we had one woman fighter in bantamweight today that did this, we could throw away the history of the entire division. That's how good Ronda Rousey was. Have you ever seen a record like this? Um, all of those submissions are arm bars. And then you have KOs where Sarah McMahon was like a liver knee. Alexis Davis was KO'd cold in like a headlock position on the ground. Kat Zingano was a 14-second armbar. In Bethe Correia, she slumped out cold on the canvas. There was nobody like Ronda Rousey at the time. And yes, if you go back and watch these fights, go back and watch the Bethe Correia fight, go back and watch the early bit of the Sarah McMahon fight, it's not incredibly impressive striking. She kind of just walks forward with her head up, throwing from, I don't even know how to describe it, like Yuri Prohaska punches where like there's no technique really. They just kind of look like they'd hurt if they hit you. It's just kind of like pushing your fists out there at people. And, you know, she gets clocked a bunch, so it's not a surprise that fucking Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm beat her. And by the way, I think that she'd beat Holly Holm. If they had that fight earlier in Ronda's career, if they had that fight around the time of the Liz Carmouche matchup, Ronda would have won. But because she got too confident in the striking, refused to look to grapple, and couldn't get a hold of her, she lost. So, kind of a tricky situation if you're a Ronda Rousey fan at that point. And listen, the hype was fucking real about Ronda. Don't get any mistake about it. People talk about Ronda like this undeserved hype. How was she ever the champ, with only basic judo and whatever else? Brother, the hype around Ronda was for, and I'll tell you why. Look, first of all, no female fighter had ever looked like this in the UFC's history. Outside of like Paige Van Zandt, she hadn't even come around yet. And Gina Carano, I guess, in Strikeforce. But no one looked like this. Ronda was like the it girl of MMA. Because first of all, you've got an attractive, like, badass, like someone who was finishing everybody, an unbelievable judo player who could fucking throw you around. And let me tell you, man, amen. You got guys like Joe Rogan saying she beats 50% of the bantamweight men in the UFC. You know who was in the bottom half of bantamweight at that point? Demetrius Johnson. Well, not at 184, actually. But earlier in his career, that's who he would have been talking about. It was a guy like Demetrius Johnson. You had people saying she'd beat Floyd in MMA, which I don't think so, but I guess technically if she got a hold of him, she probably could just throw him. But yeah, man, like the hype was real. Dude, have you ever seen champs with this big of favorite numbers for odds? Minus 700 versus Bethe Correia, she was a minus 1600 favorite. Dude, what the fuck? Minus 1600 as a champion. Bethe Correia was like the number 2 ranked contender. Could you imagine if fucking, I'm trying to think of an example of someone with the dominance of Merab. Dude, Khabib fought Justin Gaethje and wasn't minus 1600. I mean, obviously, Betchko and Justin Gaethje are the same. Let me think of a different one. You know what I mean? Like, look at the current bantamweight female champion. Kayla Harrison is a dominant champ. She was not minus 1600 versus Juliana Pena. And if she was, then fucking good on her. But she wasn't anywhere close to minus 1600. I think she was like minus 700, and that was one of the most lopsided wins of all time. And everyone knew she was going to win. Kayla Harrison wasn't minus 1600 versus Holly Holm, who was 50 fucking years old and had no ground game. Um, so you know what I mean? Like the hype was real and it was deserved. She was fucking running through girls. So for people to act like she was this overrated, hype train at the time isn't true because she gave a lot of reason to be big on her, even if it made you look past how dog shit her striking was outside of having heavy hands. Um, and, this is a girl who's finishing everybody. This is after slumping Betch Correia at UFC 190. This is her submitting Miesha Tate in round 3. Listen, dude. At the end of the day, Ronda Rousey was legit. Don't ever let people tell you otherwise because fucking she was, hey man, she was legit. I wasn't even around for this shit, but I've rewatched all the fights on Fight Pass. That's just what I was bored doing yesterday. That's why I've even making the video. I went back and watched every single Ronda Rousey fight in her career yesterday. And let me tell you, this girl was fucking legit on the ground. Very, very good hip throws. It's why all the girls try it now. Even though they don't work anymore. Mainly because they're not judo fucking gold medalists or whatever the hell Ronda was. But like you got like dumbass girls and like Jack Della Maddalena that are trying these hip tosses when they aren't judokas like Ronda and they can't do it. I bet she'd still be able to do it now, but that's a story for another day. Listen, the first matchup that we're going to talk about, and we're going to, there's going to be a little conversation after this. Ronda Rousey versus Kayla Harrison. At bantamweight, listen, I'm not going to fucking sit here, and this is prime, right? When I say prime Ronda Rousey, I'm talking about the Ronda Rousey that fought Miesha Tate. To me, is prime Ronda Rousey. She was throwing her in fucking inverted triangles. She was trying the arm bars. It was getting a little dicey on the feet. But this was the girl still chasing subs. You know what I mean? Even the one that fought Kat Zingano, I'd throw in there. Any of the Ronda before really the striking got to her head, we'll say is prime Ronda Rousey. I think she has no fucking chance against Kayla Harrison. Kayla is on her level of judo, probably better. I'm not like a guy who follows judo. Someone can let me know down below who was better in their competitive career. It had to have been Kayla. But yeah, Kayla Harrison would win. She's pretty composed on the feet, way more composed than Ronda ever was. If Ronda got a hold of her, then maybe there's something there, but Kayla seems like someone who'd be well versed for this type of matchup, so I'm not going to waste your time on this matchup with Kayla Harrison. I think she wins pretty easily, probably a first round finish. However, this is where it gets interesting because guess fucking what? That is the only matchup I'm going to talk about. Numbers 2 through 15, Ronda Rousey beats every single one of these girls in her prime. That is how sad the bantamweight division is currently. It literally didn't do anything but step back after Ronda retired. Raquel Pennington, dog shit. Juliana Pena, worst fighter in UFC history. Norma Dumont, ass. Literally. Ketlin Vieira, fucking who cares? Maybe she'd win. Who gives a fuck? Yana Santos, no. Irene Aldana, she got good boxing, but the grappling would be a problem. Macy Chesson, hell no. Eileen Perez, I mean, I'd want her to win for the sake of the twerking, but I don't think she'd win. Carol Hosa, hell no. Calvacante's dog shit. Myra Buena Silva, dog shit. Nora Connolly, I haven't really watched her fight much. When was the last time she fought? Wasn't that long ago. Probably dog shit. Miesha Tate is still ranked. We're going to talk about that in a second. Jocelyn Edwards, dog shit. Luana Santos, dog shit. Although Edwards just did get a KO, but no, she's not winning. If Ronda gets a hold of any of these girls, she wins. This is how dog shit the bantamweight division is. I'm not even going to waste your time going through these fucking matchups because I don't care, frankly. And she's not going to win. Ronda's going to win every single one of these matchups. And we can continue to talk about this at length. You look at the champions that bantamweight has had since Amanda Nunes is gone. Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena is one of the worst fighters in UFC history. I'm not kidding when I say that. I don't understand how Juliana Pena got a belt. She has no clue what she's doing on the feet. Her grappling is fine. When she gets on the ground, she can throw up a basic triangle, and she's gotten a couple girls with that. I think she's got a couple rear naked chokes off of her wrestling. But she is terrible. Amanda Nunes threw the fight versus her. You will never convince me otherwise. Go rewatch that. She had 0 hooks in, literally was choking the fucking nose of Amanda Nunes, and she tapped. Not even in as a choke. And she tapped. and then didn't even seem to care when she tapped. So there's something there for sure. Whatever. Raquel Pennington is even worse than Juliana Pena. What does Raquel Pennington do? She dropped Juliana Pena in their fight, by the way, which I will always think is funny. Got robbed in that fucking decision. And this is the number two contender, former champ. Raquel Pennington is terrible. I'll talk about her record in a little bit, but we got two of the worst fighters in fucking female history that are 1-2 in this division. Then Norma Dumont at number 3. Count how many decisions she has been to in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 decisions in a row. And the fight before that is a KO loss in her debut. That is Norma Dumont's record in the UFC. Oh my god, man. Norma Dumont's the new girl, man. Yeah, dude, yeah, Norma Dumont's nasty, man. You've never seen a marauder like Norma Dumont. 10 straight decisions. Dude, absolutely unbelievable stuff. 10 decisions in a row, boring as fuck, never been an exciting fight before. These are the top 3 at bantamweight outside of the champ. Obviously, Kayla Harrison is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. She's very good. Isn't it kind of sad that a skilled women's MMA fighter at bantamweight is a once-in-a-lifetime talent? You know what I'm talking about? Like, Ronda was the same, once in a generation. They were literally just a dominant champ. What are you talking? Once in a generation? That means we're calling, like, Charles Oliveira once in a generation because he was beating all of the lightweights. You know what I'm saying? He's not once in a generation. You talk about Islam once in a generation. I bet there's another guy that could fight a fucking lightweight. His name's Ilia Topuria, by the way. Or Arman Saruki, and that would beat a bunch of lightweights. Are they all once in a generation? No, they're just great fighters. But we're calling these girls once... Dude, people were talking about Juliana Pena after that Amanda Nunes fight. Dude, no one beats this girl, man. With the grappling, with the jab, the stiff jab that she's putting out there, no one's beating this girl. Are we fucking serious, man? Unbelievable stuff. Let's keep it going here. You would look at a record of 16-10, and you would say to yourself, oh, this is probably one of those, like, old school heavyweights. This is probably, like, fucking Dan Severn's record, or, like, Kevin Randleman might have had a record like this. You know what I mean? Carlos Newton, 16-10. Yeah, you get it. They took some weird fights in Pride or something. That is the former champion Raquel Pennington's record in the UFC. Or in MMA, sorry, my bad. Raquel Pennington is 16-10 as a professional. Are we fucking serious? 16-10 and was the champion of the sport. She was 15-9 when she challenged for the belt. What the fuck are we doing here, bro? Fucking Artem Lobov and Mark Hunt have records like that. And then you're talking about, oh my god, man, well, she probably beat a savage to get the belt, you know what I mean? Mayra Buena Silva, first of all, by the way, the fight she won to get the belt was overturned because of a positive PED test. And still got a title shot off of a suspension, by the way. Mayra Buena Silva is currently 0-4-1 in her last 5. So, yeah, man, a real marauder that she got the belt off of. Mayra Buena Silva is one of the worst fighters I've ever seen in my life. No stand-up, pulls guard and isn't even really good at it. And she's dog shit. So, hell of a performance by these two in that title fight. One of the worst title fights I've ever watched is at UFC 297. Obviously, Rose and Esparza will forever be the worst title fight at 274, but regardless, even Romero Adesanya is more interesting than those two fights. 16-10 is the record of a champion in the UFC. God help us all. In continuing on this note, by the way, Juliana Pena, who, listen, I will forever hate on Juliana Pena. Just dog shit, entitled. People like Juliana Pena because she's, like, kind of conventionally attractive with, like, a pound of makeup on her face. But she's terrible at fighting. And once you hashtag notice that Amanda Nunes threw that fight, it changes the game. It changes your perspective, right? Juliana Pena, after losing to Kayla Harrison in an embarrassing title performance, as the champion of the sport, by the way, was a plus 450 underdog, called for dibs on the winner of Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes. Dibs. What the fuck are your dibs? And by the way, let me talk about this because I forgot to mention it. Sarah McMahon, the girl that Ronda Rousey KO'd in a minute with a liver shot back in the day, was the win that Juliana Pena got to face Amanda Nunes. That is how relevant Ronda Rousey still is to the sport with the girl she beat, when people claim it was like fucking garbage men and like maids and shit. What's the equivalent for women? I have no idea. Fucking plumettes. That's who she was facing. Dibs. What the fuck are you getting dibs for? You've been win-loss for an entire career. She's like 13-6 or something. Congratulations, buddy. welcome to the big show. Fucking retire. You know what I mean? We would not be sad if Juliana Pena retired. It is what it is. I don't know, man. I can't stand Juliana Pena. That's kind of that's a general thing. And getting knocked down by Raquel Pennington, you should be ashamed of yourself. This has literally turned into a Juliana Pena rant. But it is what it is. Women's bantamweight is dog shit. I made this video with the intent to go list by fighter, like, oh shit, Ronda could get technical here, and maybe in the striking she can knock this girl out, or oh, this girl would be able to stick the jab out there. No, that isn't a thing. These girls are terrible at bantamweight. Flyweight and strawweight are better. There are still some girls at flyweight that I kind of look at outside of the top five, and I'm like, holy shit. But strawweight, actually talented girls. Flyweight, we'll give it to them. Bantamweight, these are random girls they found on the street. You could walk the neighborhoods of like Bristol, Connecticut, and you could find a girl and say, hey, have you ever thrown a punch before? They say no. You say you're perfect for the job. Welcome to the UFC bantamweight division, right? You know, that's literally what the UFC is doing. So, fucking yeah, I'm frustrated, and it's like you look at two of the girls on Ronda Rousey's resume. Miesha Tate is still ranked. She's 50 years old. She had like fucking 8 children. Miesha Tate is still ranked in the division at 13, and or almost finished the girl who's now in the top 5 in the division in Yana Santos. Almost finished her. That is Miesha Tate still at 38 or however old she is. Still in the top 15. A girl that Ronda Rousey beat twice. And I think Miesha could still beat some girls at bantamweight, by the way, even though it's really because of inactivity that she's still ranked. Holly Holm is 50 years old. She would still be in the top 10 after the Kayla Harrison loss. You know what I mean? Holly Holm was still kind of doing it at the time. Like, I think she was coming off that win against fucking, or no, I guess she lost to MBS, but she had beat like a Yana Santos, who's a top 5. Yana Santos is top 5. She beat Yana Santos 30-26. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable how well Ronda's resume is set up. And I'm not like a Ronda apologist. She's a fucking sore loser. She quit because she didn't know how to lose in the sport. And realized she wasn't good enough with those specific 2 girls, the greatest fighter of all time, then Holly Holm, a world champion boxer and kickboxer. Um, but like, and yeah, she's annoying. She went on the fucking TV shows and just kind of whined and complained about how the fans weren't fair to her. Even now, she went on that fucking podcast with Bert Kreischer, and she's like, "Oh man, the fans, the fans don't care about me." You would get a standing ovation if you fucking walked into any arena in the world in the UFC right now. If they pan the screen to Ronda Rousey sitting in the front row, Ronda Rousey would get the biggest standing ovation of all time. She was a pioneer for the sport. She was one of the greatest to ever do it, regardless of what happened in the last 2 fights. And it's crazy to me that she's such a fucking sore loser about it, because if she was a better person about how her UFC career ended and how her MMA career ended, dude, people would fucking love Ronda, but solely because of the personality, they don't like her. But, I kind of wanted to highlight today that, you know what I mean? Ronda's resume, you separate the art from the artist, Ronda's resume is still legit as ever, and I think she still beats a lot of girls at bantamweight. We just kind of have to separate it from the fact that she's annoying as fuck. So ladies and gentlemen, you look at the history of Ronda Rousey. I think a lot of us were not familiar with her game before this video. The bantamweight division is still dog shit. So if you want to complain about strength of schedule, I'd argue it might be fucking easier now. And that's kind of the moral of the story, right? Ronda Rousey, while annoying and whiny and fucking, I wouldn't say any of this to her face. She'd hip toss the shit out of me. But annoying and whiny, she had a great career outside of those final 2 fights. Never let them forget what they took from you. Again, 12 wins, all 12 being by finish, and one of them being outside of the first round. They took that from you, and now you've got Juliana Pena as the number 1 contender, and Norma Dumont, who is next for a title shot on a 10-fight decision streak. So, yeah, man, UFC's gone to shit in the bantamweight division. Diego Lopez getting a title shot in 2026, unreal. And yeah, guys, listen, I appreciate every single one of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a pretty quick one to make. Just kind of wanted to talk about whatever the fuck was on the top of my mind. We are officially in UFC 323 fight week. Our channel's GOAT, Peyton Talbot, will be on the main card. We will be tuned for that. Otherwise, hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. Watch some football. I don't know what the hell y'all watch sports-wise, but listen, have a beautiful day. Go back and watch those early Ronda Rousey fights, generational stuff, what she was doing. And in the meantime, boys, like, comment, and subscribe down below. It's free. I ain't charging it for nothing. You know what I mean? So hit that subscribe button. I'll appreciate you more for it. My TikTok is at MoneyManziel MMA. And until next time, which is probably tomorrow, I'll see you boys. Peace out.